Support for this podcast comes from listeners like you. This is an ad-free show and donations are greatly appreciated. To learn more and make a contribution, go to authenticparenting.com/support. Thank you for your generous and kind support. It means the world to me. I am Anna Seewald, and this is Authentic Parenting, a podcast about growing ourselves while raising our children. I'm a psychologist, educator, and parent coach. And on this podcast, I explore how you can connect to your authentic self, practice radical self-care, and raise emotionally healthy children. Let's break the generational cycle of trauma for a more peaceful, kind, and compassionate world. Today, navigating adult friendships. This is an impromptu conversation with my dear friend, Kristi Lorisella, who's been on the show numerous times, about friendships. I will have links in the show notes to her previous episodes, as well as her bio, social media, and website. Kristi visited me the other day, and as we started talking, it became clear that we both were going through some friendship issues. I stopped her quickly, went to grab my recorder, handed her a microphone, and I said, "Let's record a podcast." Of course, she was uncomfortable, understandably so, because she was not ready. And I also feel a little exposed, I have to be honest, because this is an issue I am trying to talk about for the first time out loud with someone. I raised the idea of updating our friendships, and I would love to know what you think about that. We talked about handling conflicts, what to do when friendships end, and much more. The more we talked about this, the more I realized that A, I enjoy this topic very much. B, I have a lot to say. And I have a need to talk about this and refine my ideas. C, I have many more questions and I would really love to explore them with other podcast guests on the show. I want to know more. And I want to understand my own blind spots and limitations about the topic and about being a friend. I want you to know that I consider you a friend too. Yes, you, my loyal, devoted podcast listener. This is a form of friendship that we have. Don't you agree? I have met wonderful individuals to this podcast, people who are in my Facebook group, who show up to my community support calls, people who contact me and tell me about themselves, ask about me, wish me happy birthday, people who come to my live events, and of course, people who generously support the podcast. I appreciate you, I value you, you enrich my life, and it means the world to me. Now, let's turn the lens on you. Do you make friends easily? What's your secret for making and keeping friends? As we know, making friends as adults is a tricky thing. When was the last time you made a friend? What do you have to say about the topic of friendships? Do you have more old friends or new ones? I would really love to hear from you, so please get in touch. Send me a note to the email info@authenticparenting.com. Call the number 732-763-2576 and leave a voicemail. And yes, I do prefer audio. And for international listeners, there is a free tool on the contact page of my website. It's called SpeakPipe. Go to authenticparenting.com/contact and send me a message. Before we get to today's episode, I want to give you some homework assignment. I have 2 assignments, in fact. Number 1, get in touch with an old friend who you haven't talked to in a while. Send them a note, a card, either handwritten or electronic, and tell them that you've been thinking about them, how much you appreciate them, and in what ways they enrich your life. Assignment number 2, Take an initiative, be bold, and invite someone for coffee, for a hike, for lunch. It could be someone you see at your child's school, at the playground, library. Don't wait for them to contact you. Be the first one. Take that first step and introduce yourself and invite them. You never know. I hope you'll enjoy this episode and find it helpful. We gave some tips at the end of the episode. And if the conversation resonates with you and if you want to share your friendship challenges with me, you know where to find me. Please enjoy. You are self-conscious of what you want to say?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about friendship and, I guess it's so recent that, well, it's not really recent. I feel like still processing everything that occurred.
Friendship is an important aspect, I think, of human life, right? I really value friendships. I think there is a place for having children, being a parent, having a partner, or having other relationships. But I think friendships are so vital. For me, I place a lot of value into nurturing and maintaining my friendships. I've been thinking about the topic of friendships for a while now because a couple of things happened and I would be happy to go into them. And I'm sure you have something that you are going through and you're trying to process. This topic of friendship has been on my mind for a long time. We choose our friendships, right? It's the only relationship that we have a choice. We don't choose our parents. We don't choose our kids. Friendship is something we choose. My longest friendship is 40-something years old, 42. I'm still friends with that person. 42 years. This person has known me for 42 years. That doesn't mean we'd communicate daily or every week even. Obviously, she lives in a different country. She's in Armenia. But every time we speak, there is this genuine, familiar, warm, there is this time travel that you do when you interact with a friend from a past. It's a wonderful feeling. Like you connect to that old version of yourself, which is a more authentic, in a way, version of yourself. Like I know this person since I was 6 years old. So obviously, we have grown a lot, we have changed, but when I'm with her, I do get in touch with my inner child in a way, Life has put a lot of layers on me, but I think because we started early on that relationship, I can still access the younger parts of me and be comfortable in them with that person. Whereas my friendships that I cultivated later in life, I don't have that feeling. I am more guarded. I know I'm aware of the layers of the growth of the societal heavy things, self-consciousness, a lot of things. What do you think about that? And what's your oldest friendship?
My oldest friendship is since we were 8, third grade. So I'm trying to do the math. Is that 36 years we've been friends? And I feel similarly. We speak, maybe 4 or 5 times a year, like a really good conversation. We see each other maybe once a year if we're lucky. She doesn't live that far away, but she's much busier than I am. But yes, when we talk, everything melts away. And I think too, because she knew me as a child and she's loved me since then, there's a trust that I have in her that she really loves me for who I am. Before I was anything, before any of my accomplishments, before I, did any of the things that I might think earn people's friendship in some regards, So I do feel like she loves me for me, and there's a comfort there, and we can talk about anything. And yeah, our last conversation, we just have gotten into this habit of just jump into the really deep stuff, just within a minute of saying hi. Okay, what's going on with you? She shares, I listen. Then she says, now what's going on with you? I got a little teary reporting some of the things I was sharing with her, and it was so heavy for me. And I started to feel a little self-conscious, and she's like, "Are you kidding me? I call you for this stuff. This is what I want. This is what being best friends is all about." So it's just nice to have someone to hold space for you, just to show up as you are.
Yeah, those early friendships, they're so true. It's so powerful to have those friendships in our lives. I think we have to make a conscious effort to maintain our friendships, to nurture them. I'm guilty of that, not watering enough the plants of old friendships, but that comfort is there. No matter what, you connect with them and it feels like you pick up where you left off. But I also feel guilty when I don't reach out more. I guess it's a two-way street. They can do the same. But one of the regrets of the dying, right? Bonnie Wire wrote this book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. One of them is, I wish I could have kept in touch with my friends. I don't want to have that regret when I'm old and dying. I think friendships are vital. Maybe, I'm not sure if we give enough importance in our day-to-day life to friendships, in our busy day-to-day life in the United States, for example. I'm not sure how is it in other countries. I am assuming it's different. Like in Armenia, it's different for sure. It's more it's understood and it's very cultural. Even if you're busy, friends have a place. It's like good friends are like family. You would never say, "Oh, I don't have time," or "I'm too busy," right? Life is not that busy. But here we have to make arrangements to meet one another, or, can I call you? There is that extra layer of politeness and things like that. I like the spontaneity of friendships, that you can just pick up and call or go and see them or drop by. I grew up like that, so I really appreciate that part. But I think with our busy lives, we do have to make a conscious effort to nurture and nourish the friendships that we have, because then who are we without those friendships? It's like, you're not yourself. Friends remind you of who you are. They hold a mirror. You get in touch with parts of yourself that you lost maybe, or obviously with certain friendships, you bring a certain part of you to the game, right? Certain people know you from this angle and some other people know you from that angle. And that multi-dimensional aspect of having different friends is what I really like. Then you get to know yourself in a more well-rounded way.
I love my friends. I'm obsessed with my friends. I want to line all my friends up and show the world how awesome my friends are. I'm so proud of them, and I admire them all so much, and for each in different ways. And it just, when I feel down, I'll frequently reach out to a friend or send a text or a funny link or something like that, and just knowing that they're on the other end of the line, it makes me feel so happy that they're there. They're struggling too, and we're going through this parenting thing simultaneously, and we're not alone in that, because so many of us just go to our homes at the end of the day and we have our partner and our kids, and it's easy to forget that everybody is going through the same things as you are. And I find that my friends offer me unique perspectives on things. They remind me of my great qualities, when I'm maybe, forgetting how great I am too, and it's a real boost to my self-esteem.
No, you were saying a lot of good things. I mean, what purpose do friendships serve? You already mentioned a lot of good things. I said several things. So if we could put all those pieces together, that's really huge, right? They sustain us. They show us who we are. They boost our self-esteem. They're there for us when we go through hard things, on and on. And it's just so invaluable. And I think making a priority to nurture, to reach out, not to hold grudges or keep count, who contacted who, how many times, that kind of stuff. But also, I've been thinking a lot about updating our friendships. Just because we've been friends with someone for a long time Does it mean we have to be friends with them forever? Do we update our friendships? I was thinking about this in the summertime, and we don't update our friendships. It seems like, and by updating, I don't mean cut them off, get them out of your life, that kind of stuff. Maybe in some instances, if the life of that relationship has expired, maybe yes, that's the case. But I still believe that relationships could be recovered or, resuscitated. But sometimes it's time to say goodbye to a friend. The nature has shifted. I'm experiencing that now with a specific friend. But what has happened in the summertime, I have a friend, we've been friends for about 20-something years, and she was going through a very rough time. She's alone in the United States. She's in a different state, and I was calling her every day. She had health issues. I was supporting her, and she acknowledges that she is grateful. She was grateful, and she listened to my suggestions. She started therapy and certain things, and in one of her therapy sessions, she had learned certain things about her family, and we had a conversation. She was sharing her impressions after with me. I don't know what I said or a comment about her sister or something like that. I made an observation that, yeah, you were always like that than your sister, but it was a compliment. Like you were more, I don't know, maybe type A or something like that, I said, than your sister. Your sister is very passive and not driven so much. Driven is the word that I used. And she got so upset and offended. And she started yelling and saying things, hurtful things to me, bottled up things. For 20 years, she had bottled up things that I had no idea. And I was taken aback. Really, it was very shocking. I didn't respond or say anything. And she said things that were very important, that she was jealous of me basically all those years. That's the bottom line. And jealous in the sense that I have a partner and she's a single mom. And at first I couldn't hear her pain because she was attacking me personally, calling me names and putting down certain things, my life choices or my partner, things like that. And it was very hard to be present to that, but I didn't respond to her. I took a break for a week to process. I was very sad. And we're still friends. We still talk. We talked about it later and overcame, and I understood where she was coming from. She was in deep pain. She wants to have a partner. She wants to have a different life. But I didn't steal her husband. I didn't make her life miserable. I understand that. So what if I have a partner for 20 years? You resented me for that? You thought I am somehow better than you because I have a husband and you don't, and you didn't succeed, quote unquote, in maintaining a partnership. The main thing I took away from this was she said that she had made decisions in her life, be that education related or partner, why she partnered up with someone to have a child. What she said was and I never processed this out loud, and I apologize if it's not coherent, but I am wrapping this up. She said she didn't get involved with that person who she had a child with. It wasn't because of love or she wanted to have a family, because she wanted to have a kid, because it was too late. She just needed to have a kid. Then she said other things about her life choices that she made. And what I felt was like, wow, she has a lot of anger and resentment and a lot of complicated feelings about the life choices that she's made because she hasn't made them for the purposes of those decisions. Like she didn't have a child from the person because she loved this person. She just had an ulterior motive. She went to college to get a graduate degree, not for the sake of getting a graduate degree, but to meet a different goal, like some, underground ulterior motive. Everything she said that day about her life choices was she made decisions that were not in alignment with who she was. She did it to please others, to earn her father's approval, or to do this other decision for different purposes. Do you know what I'm saying, right?
Like it's as if she were in a trance.
Yes. And so she blurted out to me all of this and offended me as a result, because to her, I am a person who is living her life according to her values. I achieve certain things because I wanted to achieve that thing. I chose a profession because I wanted to have that profession. But that doesn't mean that I took it away from her. You know what I mean? But so it got me thinking, wow, when we do things, when we are in alignment, we're happier. There's meaning in our life. And I was thinking about my life choices after that. Every choice, every major choice I made for the purpose of that, pursuing that goal, that choice. I didn't have some kind of other motive. Because then you are fooling yourself. Then you're not happy when you get to that goal, right? But it's not that easy. I'm not blaming her. Does she even know what she really wants, what her values are? Is she aligned? Is there alignment? You know, it's complicated. So our own happiness, other people are not guilty. You know, I'm not guilty for her unhappiness. I didn't tell her to make those choices. But she sees somehow that we are in competition and it didn't feel good, you know? And the value is we have to make choices that are really authentic to us, that are aligned with ourselves. You know, if you want to buy a house because it's important to you, buy a house. But if you're buying a house because you want to show other people that, you know, you are at a certain financial level, well, then you're going to be miserable with that choice. If you want to partner up with someone because everybody else around you has a partner, but you don't like that guy, then you're going to be miserable. You know, if you're doing something not for the sheer purpose of its inherent purpose, then you're going to be miserable. If it's about pleasing others, getting validation, I don't know. What do you think? I think for me, when it comes to big life choices like that, I never consulted with anyone, be that my profession or making a podcast, marrying someone, not owning a house, having one kid. Like, I always listened to myself deeply when I made those choices. That doesn't mean always, right? There are small decisions that you make on a daily basis that are, you know, to please someone or to avoid a conflict. I do those things too. But major life decisions, I think I'm okay with that. I'm happy I don't have that misalignment. I've been examining my life after that conflict, and that's the conclusion I came to. And I am happy that I didn't have a great childhood, as you know, after the earthquake, but I am also happy for that opportunity that no one was there to take that away from me. I was on my own. I had that freedom.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think your unique circumstances in your childhood, you know, obviously we're complex people and, you know, we're born with certain traits and our childhoods shape certain parts of who we are. And I think losing everything and almost everyone at the age that you did, you know, you kind of didn't have a choice. I mean, you had to create your life anew at that point. And I know not everyone ended up like you, but I do think that potentially contributes to your free-spirited nature, your appreciation for things, your curiosity, and your enthusiasm for life and living, you know. And I think so many folks, myself included, I think, you know, different phases of our life, maybe we operate, you know, maybe that unconscious part of our brain kind of runs things because of unmet needs or because of the relationships we had with our parents. So we might seek out careers or partners that are being chosen for, well, in response to what you're saying, chosen for reasons that are apart from our true selves and what we truly want in life. We think we want those things, and we think they're going to maybe heal us or fix us, but they ultimately don't, because deep down there's this unworthiness, or how do we say, like brokenness that we struggle to accept about ourselves.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Thinking about your life's decisions, for example, major life decisions, where to live, who to marry, to have a child or not to have a child, or a career or a job or a profession to choose. Let's start with your profession, for example. You changed your profession, right? Your initial profession, like thinking about what I'm just saying, thinking back, what drove that decision?
This is actually a story that I've told a few times in the recent past that I think about more and more the older I get. When I was in high school, I was trying to decide whether I wanted to be a voice major or an accountant. Two very different fields. I was in an accounting class. I loved it. I got the accounting award and the accounting scholarship. And I thought to myself, practically speaking, in my household that I grew up in, work was important, making money was important, and that seemed like the practical goal would be to become an accountant, have a reliable income, be a professional, make lots of money. And I got to school, a great school that had a wonderful accounting program. I would graduate with a master's degree in accounting and on my way. And within my first semester, I was like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I hate all of these classes. Where is the spark, And I remember laying on my bunk in my dorm. I was on the top bunk, so I was staring at the ceiling. It was just like a foot away from my face. I don't know where this idea came from, and there were no drugs involved. But I thought, what if the world ended and I was one of the survivors? What would be important? And the vision that came to my mind was a bunch of people. I mean, it's kind of like a Walking Dead scene where there's just these survivors in the woods sitting around a fire. And I thought, we would only have our stories, We would just have our stories. That's all we would have. And nobody would be counting money because nobody would have money. There'd be no computers to track it. I had always loved, when I thought about what we all would have left would be our stories and telling our stories to each other, I thought, well, somebody needs to help people tell their stories. Not everybody knows how to do that. So I had always loved my English classes. I always loved reading. I always loved writing. And I thought, well, I'll become a teacher and I'll help children read and write. And that launched my teacher training. I became an English major, an education major. And one of my first tasks was volunteering at the Adult Learning Center on campus. And I was teaching a 55-year-old man how to read for the first time in his life. And that pretty much sealed the deal for me. It was such a transformative experience, and to witness his courage and vulnerability in learning how to read at such an advanced age, I just saw the power and the life-changing effects of that. And I think that it's not surprising that now I'm a therapist and I sit and I listen to people's stories all day. And I do think that my training as a teacher and my experiences as an educator has, kind of naturally led me to this, just because, I don't know, it was really the aspect of teaching English that I loved was the empowerment piece, was watching someone learn to trust themselves and learn to communicate authentically about themselves. That was really what was so beautiful to me about teaching middle school and high school kids. But, the psychoanalyst in me can also trace it back to, school was a really safe place for me. And not that I was unsafe at home, but school was a really safe place for me. I enjoyed the attention of my teachers, the praise of my teachers. I, excelled academically. And that was definitely something in my unconscious at that time that I've learned, that people-pleasing quality that a lot of us can have. It's filling some kind of void, and it's not necessarily coming from an authentic place. And so I think school for me was familiar, and I knew the system well, and I was successful within the system. And so it was almost a safe choice in some ways. It wasn't like, I had dreams of becoming a doctor. That was way too scary. I didn't even know any doctors other than my own pediatrician, And so I think it was like a comfort zone for me to stay within the school system. And so I guess I'm offering that up as kind of like a counterpoint to, this romantic vision that I had of sitting around a fire and being a storyteller, so I think there's a lot of factors that go into our decision making, and they're not all conscious, and they're not all necessarily in alignment with our authentic selves.
Yes. And that's what I want to explore, because this friend shed light to that topic for me. Of course, I made decisions, but like when it comes to, that's why I'm saying, when it comes to major life decisions, not like every day, like what did I feed my child today for dinner, or why did I get a haircut, stuff like that. But the major ones, which is your career, your profession, your partnership, right? Certain things that are gonna have a lifelong impact. How do we make these decisions? And even if we are in alignment at the moment, it seems like based on your story that also can change later, right?
Yeah, I think we evolve
or
over
it's not
time.
Even that clear cut that the way I am saying. I'm seeing the limitation in what I'm saying. You know what I mean? It's not that simple. It's not like whether you're aligned or not. There is other factors, Anna. But my judgment of this friend was like, if you didn't want to get a PhD and you're only going through this path so that you can do this for your son, something, and I don't want to be specific, that to me is completely inauthentic. That's for sure going to make you miserable because you're going to hate every moment of getting the PhD for 5 years or 4 years, right? That's what I am trying to convey. But forget this for a moment. Let's close this subject the listener can think about, because I want to come back to the friendship topic, which is more important.
Did I set us off topic?
No, I did. What I want to come back to is to you, that you are going through something in one of your friendships, and you were talking about attachment and how you see some parallels. So how do you want to share that story in a way that is safe? And what do you want to share about that so we can discuss?
I think that in my case, I was taken by surprise by some feedback I received from a longtime friend of over 20 years about my child and my parenting. And I think that initially, because I trusted her and because I valued her perspective, I took it and ran with it. And I don't know initially that was the best thing to do. I was affected by it, and I kind of took action based on her feedback. I took her feedback to heart. And I think that if I were to do it all over again, if I were to do it all over again, I know so much more now about myself and about my child and about my parenting philosophy that it wouldn't have happened the way that it happened. But I think that we drifted apart because I ultimately realized that I didn't think that her feedback was really coming from a place of love or authentic care for me or my child. It was coming from a very wounded place in her. And therefore, my response needs to adjust to that. And, we attempted to talk it out. We attempted to be open with each other. And the conversation just didn't go the way that I had expected it to go. I wanted the conversation to conclude with, we both had a part in this, and let's see how to move forward together. But the conclusion of the conversation was, from her perspective, I was completely in the wrong, and I needed to do something to fix the situation. And in a relationship, it's never just one person's fault. There's relationships, everyone contributes in a relationship. And I think it was at that point where I started to reevaluate her place in my life and the future of our relationship. And I was really, I think, clinging to who I wanted her to be. And I needed to come to terms with who she is And she's a wonderful person, and she's a caring person, and she was one of my best friends for, over 20 years. But I do think at this point in time, we're just not compatible. I think we've both evolved in different ways, and the roles that we played for one another, we're not willing to play anymore. And that's what happens. And I think that because I've never had a situation like this, it really felt like going back to like a middle school drama type of, how it was preoccupying my mind and how I was trying to figure out how to make it right. And, it was just creating a lot of anxiety for me. And it's really caused me to reflect a lot on who I am and who I want to be. And I wish her well, and I hope for the best for her. I had tried my best to be as good of a friend as I could be, and I think I'm finally getting to a place. This is, almost a year from the beginning to end of this particular situation. And one of the things I'm learning about myself is that I don't like when things end. And gosh, I'm a therapist. I'm supposed to have healthy relationships with everyone around me. And if I can't resolve this with my friend, then there's something wrong with me, And that's just not the case, And that's not to say that there's something wrong with her. It's just we're not on the same page anymore. We used to be on the same page. We're not anymore. And it hurts. And it's really painful, and I just have to kind of take it as a big lesson. I'm getting to the point, when you have something very dramatic like this happen in your life, I kind of know I'm getting some closure with it when I get to a point where I'm thankful that it happened. As painful or traumatic as it was, I'm getting to a point where I'm saying, hey, I'm grateful that this happened the way that it did. I've learned a lot, and I'll take this lesson with me.
Wow, there's so much to explore here, but I want to ask you, so do you feel like it's complete for you? Are you at the place where you don't miss her or certain aspects of the friendship? Are you lacking anything? Or do you have regrets of any kind? Or do you think you're at peace now that this relationship has run its course and this is where I am? It sounds like you're at peace and you're accepting things and you have gratitude for what it was, what it gave you. But do you miss certain things about it? Or do you feel the lack of certain things of that friendship in your life?
Right. I think that's what I'm also still processing is what was our friendship? What was it about, and how did we spend our time together? And how has my idea of what a friendship is shifted since then, And I do feel like with this particular friend, because we will have to encounter each other, within our community, that's probably what presents the biggest challenge for me. And I get a sense from her that she's not interested in smoothing things over or having any type of direct conversation about defining what our relationship looks like now. So I feel a little lonely. I'm left kind of alone to define that for myself. But we made a lot of really beautiful memories together. And, Facebook reminds me of that when photos of us pop up, and it hurts my heart a little bit to see those faces smiling together and remembering the good times that we had, which there were many. So I feel rejected.
Yes.
I feel rejected. And that hurts.
That hurts.
Yeah.
I hear you. I have a current friendship that I am not completely in a similar place, but I've been noticing that this particular friend has been a little distant. And every time I made attempts for connection, for hanging out, for certain things, for the past several months, it's never reciprocated. It's always, not now, I don't have time, I'm busy. It's always a negative response. And so when you put the larger picture together, that tells me something, right? That this person is not prioritizing this interaction. She's creating a distance, and that's fine. But I have questions. I don't want to be in the dark. Did I do something? Did I hurt her feelings? Did I say something? And it's always funny how in situations like this, we want to take the blame. But like you said, it's two people. And it could be simply that the relationship ran its course, that she is in a different place in her life. And I know she is. She's doing her own growth trajectory. And maybe there are other reasons for that. But the human mind, I want clarity. I want to know. I want not necessarily closure, but what are we doing now? Because it's not the same. And I'm not dumb. Please don't pretend that everything is the same when we met each other, a week ago, because it's not the same. People feel that it's not the same. Where do we go from here? So I don't know. I talked to another friend and she said, oh, you should bring it up. Definitely confront her, bring it up and all that. But I'm like, I don't want to do that necessarily, because if I confront and bring it up, then where do we go from there? We're already in a disconnect. Is it what is it that I want from this relationship? And when upon reflection, I'm thinking that, it's not what I thought it was, because this person really used our friendship in a one-sided way. It was never, hey, Anna, how is work? How are you doing? How is your health? You just came from a doctor's appointment. What did they say? Or how are you doing? Your father passed away. Do you want to talk? It was never any interest, and I'm not exaggerating, towards me. And maybe because she's afraid of vulnerability, discomfort, she has anxiety, I get that. But do I want to be in a friendship where I am there for her, or we are doing certain things together and it feels good, but there's nothing in it for me in terms of real nourishment for me, right? Emotional nourishment, emotional connection. Because now that we don't interact as often, I'm left with the same result, So her place in my life is not that significant, it turns out, because I was not getting any nourishment or sustenance from her in a way that it sustains me, right? So whether she's present or not present, I'm not getting that. But I was getting certain things, obviously, because we were friends for several years. So the question is, do I really miss that? Doing the activities or the gossiping or certain things together? Yeah, sure, I miss that. But can we go back to the original, state? I don't think so. And confronting her is not going to bring us to that original state. It's only going to get us to a worse place. And I don't want to end up in your place where we see each other in a community and we, pretend we don't exist. Maybe this is better. Am I settling? Am I being complacent? So I don't know.
It sounds like there's some fear on your end in terms of acknowledging it directly with her. Would you agree? And what are your fears?
It's not fear per se. Maybe it's fear, I'm not aware of it. But for me, I thought about this. I'm like, but what am I trying to do with that? What's my goal? If I confront her and say things, what am I trying to gain from it? Just to let her know that I'm not stupid and I understand?
What if you said to her, I noticed you've been distant. I'm wondering, what is our friendship now? And she said, oh my gosh, Anna, I can't even believe it. I'm so sorry.
No, I know 100% she's going to say, what are you talking about? She's going to gaslight me. She will say, because the reasons, I can't unfortunately disclose a lot of the situations that has happened. She's going to say, oh no, what are you talking about? There's no such thing. And she's going to say some excuse about her life, which she already gave me last time. She said, oh, how have you been? Blah, blah, blah. And some excuses for the reason not being involved in each other's life a little more.
Well, it sounds like you really can't be your authentic self with her.
Yeah, that's true, I think.
And so why, it sounds like what you're saying is, why would I maintain a friendship with someone where I can't show up?
She doesn't know me. Exactly right. This is a newer friendship, maybe 4 or 5 years. And she's never, ever showed interest. I was thinking about this in me as a person or in my work or anything that I go or do. It's always about her, how she looks, how she appears, all the things that I cannot stand about humans. Superstitious values, plastic surgery, those kinds of things, that consumerism that I'm not aligned with. This person represents that. But even with that, I was friends with her. That's exactly, I need to think about that. What was I gaining or what was I contributing to that friendship? This is the question that I have to answer for myself, and I don't have the answer. So what's the point for the listener from all of this when friendships end?
Is it okay for a friendship to end? Yes. Is it okay for it to end in a very definitive, marked way? Yes. Is it okay for folks to drift apart? I think the answer is yes to all of those. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think friendships end in different ways. Yeah. Friendships end, number one. Friendships evolve, number two. And sometimes people grow apart, and sometimes there's an incident that breaks them apart, and sometimes people just drift apart, and that's okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. And that gives me comfort, because my default is, what did I say? What did I do? What has happened? But maybe nothing dramatic happened. Maybe she has grown or changed, or naturally we drifted apart, or I don't know, right? It doesn't have to be that some kind of event that ruptures things. I think that's a really good point. Nevertheless, when friendships end, or like a fire, they extinguish. It's like a dimmer light. They slowly...
Smoldering.
Yeah, sometimes they end, right? And sometimes they're just like flickering, and it's hard.
It is. I think I'm in the smoldering embers phase of this particular friendship. And I mean, do I have fantasies about us somehow repairing our relationship? Yes. I do. I have fantasies about that. When I say fantasy, I mean, I don't necessarily want that. Just I entertain fantasies.
Because our mind wants closure. Our minds want relational
harmony.
Closure. Harmony, yes. And that's connected to our attachments, right? You were speaking about before we recorded. The best part, before I got the recording gear. Can you connect that perhaps now? Is this too out of place? Is this too shocking in a couple of words?
Well, I guess I was reading Sue Johnson's book, Hold Me Tightly, in which she talks about Bowlby's attachment theories and how, most of his theories were focused on mother-child attachment. And later in his life, he started to make certain comments about how adult relationships also carry these attachment models. And he was met with a lot of resistance. But I think in the 80s, there was a lot more studies done. And now, in the current psychology scene, there's an acknowledgement that our adult relationships do indeed have our attachment patterns from our childhoods impact our adult relationships. And, in terms of my situation with my friend, I kind of used that understanding of our attachment styles. I kind of analyzed it a bit, and it kind of helped me make sense of why our relationship has ended the way it has. Obviously, that's me projecting a lot of things onto her.
No, it makes sense, because I can see that for my friend too, how she grew up. I know her mom very closely, what kind of relationship she has with her mom. It tells a lot about who you are, as a person, how you relate to others. Tell me how you've been loved, and I'll tell you how you will love others, or something like that. How we've been, cared and nurtured and attuned in our primary relationships with our parents, caregivers. We bring that, carry with us into our relationships.
And
if we don't do any work, that is, right, any kind of healing or therapy work, we repeat unless we become aware of certain patterns and we disrupt those patterns and change them.
I was noticing with this particular conflict with this friend how a lot of the somatic responses I was having in my body were very similar to the responses I have when I reflect on my relationship with my father. And I think that there were some parallels between what transpired between my friend and I and what has transpired between myself and my dad. And I just really felt unsafe with her. And I felt rejected. I felt her disapproval in similar ways that I've felt in the dynamic with my dad, who I do love, and we have a relationship. But it's, that my body was responding in ways that were similar. And I think when we are having a strong physical response to an emotional situation, it's really important for us to pay attention to those physical signs and to kind of go into them in a way and really, really feel them and really reflect on when are other times in my life that I've felt this way. Because I think that can give us insight into what's happening in the present moment.
Yeah. When we have oversized reactions to things or somatic reactions like that to everyday, ordinary, neutral things even, right? That's a trauma response. So, and oftentimes, like when I do work with people, the couples, for example, the couples are fighting about something and I can feel that, wow, for this person, this wound is so deep. It's not about it didn't originate in their coupledom. This is that primal, original core wound that this person has carried into their marriage. And we are often unaware of those wounds. It's important to know this stuff about ourselves.
And I think, too, because of that insight, well, my perspective was that I felt like I was taking responsibility for my part in the relationship. And when you're operating in relationship with someone who can't meet you there, then it's really just a really one-sided relationship.
Yeah. Like I felt in my relationship with this person. It was very one-sided. Now that I analyze with a cold head, now that I'm sort of out of it a little bit, there's a distance. I can see it from a side. I'm like, who's in it for me? For so many years, she has never, ever shown interest in me as a person. And that's shocking. Usually in a friendship, what qualifies a friendship? What defines a friendship, right? Let's conclude with this. What's a good friendship? We already said certain things in the beginning, but
I think mutual respect is a quality of a good friendship.
I value openness and directness a lot. I don't like this underground, hidden, passive things in a friendship. I'm not okay with that.
I think being on the same page about the limitations of, the time constraints, the communication restraints that might occur, like both people need to be on the same page with that. If one person's constantly trying to reach the other person, they might actually just really not understand that person's limitations, and they might be kind of crossing a boundary. I think that it's important for there to be, like you said, an open conversation about, well, how much can I rely on you and what can I rely on you for? I don't think all friendships have the same factors or features, and I think a good friendship can look a lot of different ways.
Yeah. A good friendship for me is also a place where you can be yourself, uncensored, unedited, and not self-conscious. What I said, what I did, how I look, that's a sign of good friendship for me, where I can feel so comfortable to be myself. I don't have to, like when we were speaking today before we recorded, I jumped. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to record. I would never act like that in front of someone else, right? But that's my genuine excitement. In front of some other person who doesn't know me very well, I can curb that and act grown up and mature. But that's the quality of friendships that I like, that you can be yourself.
What do you think about, I guess something that popped into my head as you were saying that is how you feel when an interaction with that person is over? Like I feel like, especially women who are managing, households and families and work and whatnot, I think a gauge could be, do I feel recharged after meeting up with this friend or after talking with this friend? Or do I feel totally depleted?
Oh my gosh, for sure. If it's depletion, then I would say that's not a good friendship. I do look for that recharge. My friend Diana and Irene, every time we get together, that's how we end every meeting. Oh my gosh, guys, was so amazing. I feel so recharged and different. And we laugh together. It's not about opinions or having perspectives about things, or do you know what I mean? We could hold different perspectives about things, political views or parenting views even. Some of my friends have completely different parenting views that sometimes I don't even approve of when I see it from a side. I could be critical in my mind, but I'm still good friends with them. I don't judge them based on that. That's why I'm surprised that that friend of yours used the parenting lens, which to me is kind of, was she trying to say something bigger but was unable to? You can't pick on someone based on their parenting. If you're a good friend, you're a friend for a different reason, not how they parent. Is it about values? Is it about we don't vibe together? But yeah, I feel recharged in a good friendship for sure.
And I think going back to what you said earlier, they kind of bring out qualities in you that help you remember who you are. They, maybe you become a little more playful, or you become just you revisit older parts of yourself when you're with them.
I'm laughing because my friend, the one who was jealous of me, we are obviously still friends because, I'm not going to throw away a 20-year-old friendship, because of that conflict. I understood why that happened. I did take it personally in the beginning. I was offended for sure because she used insults, but we're in a good place. And she reminded me of something the other day. She said, when we first came to the United States and we were students, she said, do you remember you had those white pants? I'm like, no. That was like 20-something years ago. She's like, I remember one thing very vividly, Anne. She said, one day, those pants, you wanted to wear them so badly. They were dirty, but there was no other laundry to be done. And because we lived in a dorm, we used the coins, the quarters to run the machine. And she said, you put 4 quarters just to run the laundry machine for that one pair of pants. I would never forget that. I'm like, that sounds like something I would do. And then I had a realization. I'm like, wait, sounds so much like my daughter. Oh, damn it. Now I get it where she gets those things. I didn't remember that, but good friends remind us of those stories, even though I had no idea, but it reminded me of something about myself. And now I can see that trait in my daughter, and for that reason, I can't discard that friendship. When you put it on a scale and you have understanding and compassion where that person came from, where her pain was. Obviously, she's been a single mom for, so many years, and I am married. And, is it a privilege? I mean, that's a whole nother discussion, like single people being jealous of married friends. Yeah, it's very interesting. So I'm glad I'm at the better place with that friend, that we overcame that. But this other friendship, I think, has run its course. Yeah. So what else? How can we conclude this conversation?
The thing that comes to my mind is to not be afraid to make new friends. I think as adults, we get consumed with, I don't have any time. And, I think be open to new friendships. Sometimes someone will reach out to me and it definitely feels like an invitation to become closer and to get to know each other better. And I notice, there's a part of me that really wants to do it and run right into it. And then there's a part of me that's really protective and I don't have time even for the friends that I have. And I think that you just never know how someone new will impact your life. Had I done that, had I been in that place when we met 10 years ago at this point, we might not be sitting here today if I was resistant to starting a new friendship. So I think you just never know.
I agree. It was so easy. Making friends is easier when you're a kid. It's super easy. I can see that in my daughter. I remember how I was, and I was always extroverted, outgoing. It came easier to me. But as an adult, it's harder. Those layers, the judgments, the filters, all comes into play. And you're not the same. Like the friendships that I've made later in life, in recent years, yes, I am myself and I enjoy those friendships. But there is something to be said about the friendships from our youth, from our childhood, if we're still friends with them. There's no comparison. That unfiltered, unguarded self that we bring to those friendships. I really like that. I love my adult relationships now too. And I make friends. I have new friends, different friend groups and things like that.
Okay, so that wasn't a good concluding idea. How about this idea?
No, it was good. I ruined it. Oh, damn it.
But how about this idea then? Okay.
No, it was so good what you said. Why did I take it away?
No, that's okay. Because it's scary to make new friends. And so you just, and I think it's okay. And we have been talking about long friendships, 20-year, 30-year, 40-year friendships. Those are long friendships. Even 10 years between us feels like, from early on in our friendship, it's felt like I've known you longer than I did. So, on my end.
Same is here, even though every time I learn something new, like today I learned about that staring the ceiling moment and that you went to accounting school. I didn't even know you went to accounting school.
But I guess we could conclude with, regardless of, because I don't want to put pressure on anybody to do more. I think everybody feels like they need to do more, and I don't think we need to do more. I think if we could give some kind of inspiration to folks, it would be to be really present with your friends. And when you have that time with them, really, put your phones away, be really present with each other, and don't be afraid to tell them how much they mean to you.
Amen. I agree with that. Yes.
How's that?
That's very good. Yes. No pressure. Just go there, be present, prioritize, nurture, show up. It's good for you. It's good for them. And we all crave connections and friendships. Be the one to initiate. Don't wait for them. That's good. That's a good place to end the conversation. I want to thank you for your friendship and for your eagerness to do this.
And thank you for keeping me on my toes and challenging me to do things that maybe are sometimes a little outside of my comfort zone. And I really appreciate the opportunity to record with you.
You mean the podcast is the comfort zone that I push you to come and share intimate details vulnerably about your life? Thank you, Christy. I love your laugh as always. It's very contagious and it's very coming from your heart. Thanks.
Thank you.